So my first guest is a good friend of mine and my family. She has helped us. She's helped plenty of my clients become homeowners. I've helped her clients become homeowners. We've probably been working together. She's probably over 10 years now, well over 10 years, probably closer to 15 years between her sending clients to me from her industry and vice versa. I don't want to take it lightly that Shannon's spending her time with us this morning. She is a expert in budgeting. Um, and I will let her get into her story on how she got to where she is. We're going to bring to the stage Shannon Payton, and she's going to discuss the topic of budgets.
Sea giveth crispy fish.
Hi, friends. Sorry, can everybody hear me okay?
You sound
I
great.
don't know what's happening. Look, I don't know what's happening. I think I just shared the live and the YouTube say that. So my name is Shannon. I am I'm a financial literacy expert, but more importantly, I've experienced a lot of things in life that have made me be more aware and compassionate towards people's plight when they're trying to become homeowners and getting their finances together. Just a little bit of backstory about myself. Me and my family found ourselves homeless. We were evicted the week before we went to give birth to our second son. And we were able to take that experience and prepare for home ownership and then purchase a house within 11 months. That experience taught me a lot. And I think that's when I first met Kevin. Um, right after that, or within that time, that's when I became a housing counselor. And then I started to learn the steps to financially prepare for home ownership. So my goal today is to be able to help you to not just prepare for home ownership, but hopefully if you use what I'm saying today, you'll be able to use those steps to prepare your finances, period. Because being broke sucks. And I don't think that God intended for it to be that way. So that's my goal at this point, to be able to help more people become financially aware and avoid some of the things that I've had to go through, whether it be the eviction, the repossession, foreclosure prevention, job loss, all the things, garnishments. If you name it financially, I feel like it's happened, minus a bankruptcy. So yeah, that's my goal today.
Gotcha, gotcha. So Shannon, January 1st, 2025. You
Hmm.
know what it is. New
Yeah,
me, new year, new
yeah,
house, new car, changing everything, leaving old things back
yeah,
in 2024, right?
yeah,
You and I both know realistically those are great ideas, but we have to take steps besides just making that mantra, right?
for sure.
So I want you to kind of talk to the person who says, I need to make some changes this year. Like, I really need to figure out where my money's going, and I
Hmm.
need to figure out how to allocate my money so I can save more or just have enough to pay my bills because it's tight right now. Even though they said we're not in a recession, things are still expensive.
Yeah, it is.
So, outside of even purchasing a home, what's the first step that someone needs to take to get a hold of or figure out what their budget even is?
So the first thing that a person is going to need to do is understand what a budget is not. Okay. So with a budget, it's not just I'm going to write down everything that I have to put out for the month. Well, that's just going to make you upset. You know what I mean? So the thing with a budget is you want to not only figure out what you're putting out, but also what you're bringing in, because both are important. And once you know what you're putting out and putting in, then you can decide what budget method and trackers work for you. Um, I think people automatically assume that one budget fits all, and that's not the case. So there are several different types you can go through, and I hope to share more of them with the group today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the hard part.
Uh huh.
You're married, I'm married, right?
Uh huh.
How important is buy-in from your spouse on budgeting?
Oh, it's essential, and because you can create the budget and you can make the plan, but you have to be on the same page. Because if you're not, then your spouse might. My husband, he's going to have a different opinion on what needs to happen from what I have, and we might have different priorities, and not even just your spouse, but if you have children, because we all know that they're going to come up with something the day before it's due. I got a field trip. When's it due? Tomorrow. What? You know what I mean? So you want buy-in from everybody that's within your household. And if you're divided with your budget and you can't come to an agreement about it, then your finances are going to feel like that they're all over the place. So one tip that I have, and I kind of learned it this Christmas, believe it or not, I still learn every day, is that if you can't both be in agreement, then pin it. Put it on the table until you can, because that
Gotcha.
way it just makes it easy and nobody's going to have any hard feelings.
Gotcha. So you said it's not just about putting down, say that again, not just putting down your expenses. What
Hmm.
should you do? Like, matter of fact, where do I even put it? Is there a budget worksheet I can find? Like, is there a notepad we
Yeah.
take? Like, where do we figure that all out at?
Okay, so I think the first place to understand is it doesn't have to be complicated. Um, I use a budget planner. I like to have something in my hand, but everybody's different. If you have a notebook, you can use a notebook. I was trying to see if I had one close. This is my old one. So I had a budget planner like this, where every month I would go in and write it down. Some people might just use a regular note, pen, and pad, but the important part is documenting what comes in and what goes out. We don't care what you put it on. You can put it on an app. I like Rocket Money. I don't use it because I'm the type that I have to see it, but I like Rocket Money. You need a budget or every dollar. Those are all really good budgeting apps. A lot of people's banks will show you what comes in and goes out if you're trying to figure that out, because that's the starting phase. You have to figure out where the money is going and how much of it is coming in. Once you determine that, whatever method you choose, it doesn't matter. We don't, it's not complicated. Just choose a method that works. You're going to have to choose the budget type. Now, if you're like, well, Shannon, I don't know what I spend every day because I just swipe my card, I just Cash App, I use Apple Pay because I'm guilty sometimes too, you know, then pull your bank statement. Look at your bank statement from the month before and write down what you spent and what came in. Because 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the most accurate picture of what your spending is doing. Does it make sense?
It does make sense. That does
Okay.
make sense.
And then that way you
Um,
don't miss anything.
got you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still some old school people, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you know, right now we're in a society where go in the bank. I mean, you get paid, it goes directly in the bank, but there's still some people who go to the bank and physically take out all of their money, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
How should that person budget? Like, how do they
Okay.
figure out their budget if they take out everything, get the receipt, ball it up, toss it in the trash, and going out the store?
Mm-hmm. So that type of person, the good thing about budget is there's different budget types for every personality. So for that person who likes to see it, you can do something like cash envelopes. So where you can get like a binder, and I don't know if everybody can see this. I don't know
We
if
can
you can
see it.
see or what it looks like. Okay. So this is a binder. I've tried a few of them. You have different slots for different things, and you have to know what you're putting out. But if you want to save for, let's say, your car insurance, you'll put the amount of money in for your car insurance into the car insurance envelope. Whatever you might have to spend for your rent or for your mortgage, you put in rent and mortgage calendar folder. Whatever you have to do for your tithing, for your saving, for your groceries, your gas, whatever it is. And then that's a very visual way for you to see what you're doing with your money. And here's the thing, you only use that envelope for what it says. If it says car insurance, you use it for car insurance. You don't tap into it for lunch. But if you want to go out for lunch, then make a lunch envelope. So budgets aren't restrictive. They are giving you permission to live however you want, but you just have to stick to whatever it is that you have there. Because if you don't, then that's when your budget will get out of place.
Got you. At I'm asking, and I'm kind of thinking about me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Personal to see what your budget is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when should you start tracking it? Meaning, like, there's looking at your bank statements and
Mm-hmm.
seeing what you spend, but then there's a not when, how long should you track it to kind of see your spending habits?
You want to know what you're doing for a month.
Okay.
So one thing that I do is I will take I want to explain how I budget, and then I want to explain a couple other budgets. Or can I? I'm going to actually explain the different types of budgets, and then I'll explain how I do it because
Okay.
I think this is important. So, as far as budget types, you have the types of budgets that give you like a threshold or an idea how much you can spend. So, you have something called the 50/30/20 budget, which says 50% of your income is going to go towards your needs. 30% is going to go to wants, and 20% is going to go towards savings or debt. Now, those numbers can slide according to what your life looks like, but the thing is you have to focus on what needs are and what wants are. Needs are things that you're going to have to live. Like if I don't have this, I'm going to die. Or your four walls, or housing, shelter, food, clothing. Those are like our innate needs, okay? Wants are going to be things that just make living more comfortable. Now, in my instance, your instance, I work from home, right? I need the internet. That isn't me being like, I have to have it. I need it because I have to work. If I don't have the internet, I can't work, right? So you have some things that are going to slip into different categories, okay? Um, if you are a homeowner and you're trying to use the 50-30-20 budget, you might use the 20% for saving towards your down payment. So if you make $1,000, 20% would be $200. You would save that every pay period to go towards your savings goal. That's what that would look like. $500 would go towards your needs. That's going to be things like I said, housing, food, shelter, clothing. And then your wants are going to be the other things like maybe a cell phone or different things of that nature. The next one would be a reverse budget, which says we're going to save our money first. We worked 80 hours this pay period. We're going to save some money for ourselves. So you would save 20%. You might choose to save 10%, but it gives you some sort of idea. And then the last kind, which is the one that I prefer, is zero-based budgeting, which is where every single dollar has a purpose. So as I gave the example earlier, your kids have field trips. They might have sports. You know you need to put that money to the side. You cover your mortgages and things of that nature. So you have a purpose for everything. If I want to spend $50 for going out, I write that on my budget. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, when I do my budget, I get like a calendar view. So 1 through 30, and I get it unmarked, right? And I write out every bill that's due so I can visually see it because I need to know what pay periods it falls between. Because sometimes it can slide. Like this month, for instance, we have 3 pay periods if you're paid every 2 weeks. Most people. I don't want to say everybody. It happens twice a year. Okay. Once I have it on my calendar, and well, once I write out all my expenses, I put it on my calendar so I can visually see what days it comes out. And then I go to my biweekly budget, which is where I write out the income that we're about to get for the pay period and then what's to do between this pay period and the next one. So I can make sure that I pay everything that's on there. I have to do it that way. It seems cumbersome to somebody if they don't like to write things out, but I have to see it. That's the way that I budget. It works for me. When I'm done, I check it off and I feel fulfilled. So
Got you.
yeah.
What's what's your take on writing it out versus maybe using the app? Because we have the phone at our hand all the time.
True.
What is your thoughts on those two options?
Um, so I think as long as the app is going to work as long as you have it connected to all your bank accounts that you use, right? So it's going to track it the same way as writing it. So if you know that you're going to log in and you have it in your hand, do what works. If it works for you to log into the app and look at it, do that. But if it doesn't, don't pump fake with it. You know what I mean? You have to do what works. And that's the thing about a budget. Like what works for me, what works for you is not going to work for everybody else.
Got you. So, in terms of writing, and let me say,
Mm-hmm.
majority of my followers are typically single women. I jumped
Mm-hmm.
into marriage. What does a single person do in terms of their budget? Single mom, single
Mm-hmm.
dad, who, just them or with kids, like how can they stay motivated? Because, sometimes they see more month than money. So
Right.
how can they say, you know what, Kevin, I'm going to make a change today in the way I spend my money. I need to sit down and write this out. But they're alone, so they don't have anybody to motivate them. What are some things that you would tell them as a single? I know you're not single, but as a single person to kind of keep them motivated.
Well, you want to start with the goal in mind. You know what I mean? If the goal is home ownership, you're going to have something that's, you want to tie your budget or the purpose behind it to something that makes sense to you. So if it's, I need to do this because I need a home, because my child needs to be able to have a space where they are comfortable, they say, or statistically, like children who grow up in a house are more focused, and it puts them in a better position for success later in life. You can Google it, but that's what the statistic is. Okay. So you tie it to a goal. And also, it's okay to like give yourself little treats along the way. You know what I mean? It's not such a strict thing where you can't, if you know that you enjoy maybe getting a pedicure, say, if I budget every day like this and I can put this into my budget, then this is something that I can do for myself. Maybe you might want to go to, I like, I'm an old lady. I like gardening. So I like going to arboreums and things of that nature. Maybe you might tie in going to something that you like a museum. But you have to keep your goal in mind and you have to be easy on yourself. Another thing you can do is you can join groups. Like I know you have a group on Facebook. Find other people who are like minded. And it might not be your regular circle. Like there's some of my friends, they do not care anything about gardening. I can't go to them about gardening. I can't talk to them about small business, but have pockets of space that works for you that can encourage you along the way. Um, Usually whatever you follow is what you'll become more like. So get in, like I said, get in these groups, follow the YouTube channels and things of that nature that are legitimate. Okay, that are proven. Um, and then two, and this is not even just for single people, but when you make a decision to make change, you have to be willing to let things go and people because everybody's not going to understand the vision. And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah, you do. So one of the things that I see,
Mm-hmm.
at from the lending standpoint is people being having the phone in your hand all day,
Mm-hmm.
having access to your phone all day, right? And being on the phone, you've got versus watching TV, you have a ton of people advertising to you. And one of the
Yeah.
biggest culprits, but they're making a mint, is TikTok Shop.
Yes.
And it's so like you can get stuff on TikTok Shop and it's fairly inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's $20.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you do that 10 times in a month, you spent $200 on something you
Mm-hmm.
may not even need it.
Right.
Because what I found, Shannon, and I'm thrifty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I find myself looking at stuff like, man, I was getting ready to get it,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't even know I needed this.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're creating things that are useful and you don't know that you really needed it, but is it
Mm-hmm.
worth the $20 or is the bigger goal in mind of paying down debt better? So like people get called into those impulse buying things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you mentioned, treating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How can I determine what type of budget I need to treat myself based on based on my budget? Like
Mm-hmm.
what line item can I put aside and say, "Hey, Kevin, you got $100 a month based off of what you have available to treat yourself." Or should I not treat myself until my debts are paid down? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that you should budget it.
Okay.
That's what I think. So, all right. So one, I want to touch on the impulse buys because that's two different things. So when we buy things impulsively, typically it is fulfilling that need of gratification instantly, right? So I used to be a really bad impulse buyer to the point where I would regret things as soon as I bought it. I'm like, I could probably take this back or send it back. So I go through these three steps now, and now it's a little easier for me. But the first thing is before you budget in treats, you want to make sure that you cover your bases. Have I paid my rent? Have I paid my car payment? Have I paid the bills, the necessities that I need to live? If you've answered yes to all of these, then you move to step two. Can I pay cash for it? Can I pay cash and or debit? Is this going to create another credit issue? Right? If again the answer is yes, I can pay cash. It's not going to create a credit issues. I paid all my bills. Then you go to the third thing, which is will I want this equally as bad tomorrow? Like if I wait, will I still want this tomorrow? Because oftentimes it's like the shiny object. It looks really pretty. And then you get it and it's a little rusty. You know what I mean? Because of the finish that's on it. And then two, TikTok shop is cool, but you have to understand that these things are strategic. They we can put information into marketing to people who have made similar purchases. This is like a thing that you can choose. Just real quick on the, you know, um, if you watch videos with a lot of stuff, they're going to start flooding you with it. Like if you type in today hoof shearing, like if you YouTube, I don't know if anybody else has ever watched the hoof shearing or got onto the shaving of the cow's hooves. I'm like, how did I get here? Right? I don't even know how I got here, but I'm so engrossed in this. Right? You'll start seeing stuff like that. TikTok Shop, these things, they do the same thing. They build off of a person's emotions. So a lot of times, the things that we do as far as our finances are emotionally led. Um, if you find that you keep falling in the same areas financially, maybe it's spending, you have to question your past life. Like, did I grow up in poverty, or did I grow up in a situation where I felt like um, I was entitled or given things a lot? Because usually the person who feel like they grew up in poverty and the person who feels like that they had a lot kind of had the same type of thought process. I see it, I want it, it makes me feel good, I'm getting it. It doesn't matter what your finances can do. I know that was a lot, a loaded answer for such a simple question, but these are things to consider as far as impulse buying. So if you covered all your bases for your needs, then you can budget in the treat. If you haven't, then you need to go back to your budget and decide what to cut. Because when you're doing your expenses and your income, you're going to see if you spend more money or if you make more money. If you spend more money, you have to cut things or make more money. And you just said it, it's really hard right now to try to find more because of the way that the economy is. So those are some things to consider if you're in that position.
Got you. Um, hey guys, we've got Shannon for an hour, right? But she's given us great information. We also want to make sure that we answer any questions that you have
Mm-hmm.
pertaining to a budget, specifically to your needs, right? Um, so if you have a question pertaining to budgeting, pertaining to your budget, um, drop them below. We'll answer as many as we can while we have Shannon here. I definitely would advise you to contact her if you can. I think she'll have. Will you have a budgeting worksheet for us to give to everybody that
I
they can
can.
download? Okay.
I can.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
all right. As well as maybe getting on her calendar and doing a one-on-one consultation to see if you're using, if you're budgeting right or if you have questions. I may even, I'm on the spot. I might even ask Shannon if we can do maybe a Zoom meeting where people sign up and you have a budget worksheet in front of you and we do it
Mm-hmm.
together, like me included. We
Yeah,
just spend some time and we have a tribe and we go through and we kind of put down our budget. We ask questions. It'll be a real intimate setting.
mm-hmm.
And I think we can do something like that this year sooner rather than later to give everybody a good start.
For sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, for sure we can do that.
Hey, Kim, so I recently got rid of several streaming apps. Man,
Mm-hmm. They get you,
listen,
don't they?
they get you.
You're
They
like,
get
ooh.
you. So this is what I've learned from research on streaming apps. Let's take one of my favorite shows, Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Martin may be on BET Plus,
Mm-hmm.
but seasons 1 and 2 are on BET Plus because that's what they've allotted in purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Seasons 3 and 4, or three, just like season 3 is on Prime, and that's all that they have. Season 4 might be on Netflix. So the only way to really binge Martin's show is to have access to all of those apps. And they do that strategically, so
Mm-hmm.
you have to go to those apps.
Yeah,
So I didn't learn that. I was like, why they only got like, me and my kids were looking at
yeah,
old Steve Harvey show, and I was like, why is it only season 4 on here?
yeah,
And then I started learning and researching, and they do that so you have to have those apps. And the cool part is, um, the apps can save you money, but the apps can cost you a lot of money. Because let's be real,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
let's drop a one in the chat if you still have cable or some form of cable and a bunch of apps. And I'll be the first one to drop it, right?
You know what?
So
I broke up with cable like 13 years ago.
You said you got done with it?
13 years ago, I broke up with cable. Yep.
We broke up and went back together. Um, we're, like it's getting higher. We dropped cable to save on spending. We picked up Direct Stream, which is just the app on Direct TV. It goes where we go, so when we go away on vacation, we can pull it up on the TV, log in, and see our Atlanta stations, right? The Atlanta news
Mhm.
and all that. However, I just got notification maybe a month ago that they're increasing. So then when I look at what I originally paid and what I pay now, it's increased by like $30 and I haven't
Mm.
gotten any more channels.
Okay, so here's the thing that I did. Like when we first went to Netflix, Netflix was like $6.99 back when you had to like take the DVDs and send them back, right? Now Netflix is $22.99. I'm like, Netflix got one more price increase before I contemplate breaking up with them. I tried it for like a month. We failed tremendously. I was like, girl, come on back. Come on back, Netflix. So what I started doing was looking for things that I already had that might have offered me something. So for instance, we have Comcast for internet only. Well, if you have internet only, one day they gave us an offer for like I think it was Peacock was included for free. So we have Peacock for free because we have Comcast. We're already paying for it. So you want to look for things that you're already paying for that are going to give you additional things or like an additional benefit. Walmart Plus. I like
Yep,
Walmart Plus. I think I like it a little bit better than Amazon Prime at this point. But Walmart Plus is great because they'll give you Paramount Plus for free.
yep.
So you
That's
just
what I
have to look for it.
that's what I got Paramount. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I got Paramount Plus through my Walmart app. Um, my niece has like T-Mobile, and T-Mobile
Mm-hmm.
subscribers get Peacock for free.
Yeah.
Um, Somebody mentioned Rose. You're right, Rose. So, uh, when you get the Black Friday or holiday specials, like last year we got Hulu and Disney for like
Mm-hmm.
maybe 25% of the price. However, we were on a cruise during Black Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and my wife just opened up and she was like, "What's this for 10.99 from Hulu?" And
Mm-hmm.
immediately I was like, "We missed the subscription." So then it goes up. So that's how they get you, right? It- They
Mm-hmm.
bait you. They get you in with an introductory price and say, "Oh, two ninety
Yeah.
nine a month. I spend that on Chick-fil-A, more now on Chick-fil-A sandwich, out of
Mm-hmm.
sight, out of mind."
Yep.
And it can be years where you're constantly
Mm-hmm.
being charged
Mm-hmm.
and you don't even know it and you don't notice
Yeah.
it. So I think that's where the Rocket app helps, right? Because I see the commercial all
Yes.
the time. I've just
Yep.
never used it.
Yeah. It does. And I want to kind of touch on something first. I didn't realize that I was looking at the private chat. I was like, oh, nobody said anything. And I was like, wait a minute. So I just saw all the comments. So bear with me, people. Okay, my plan is to put the amount of money I paid to apps into savings account. Okay, so yes, these things are good, and I like Rocket app because it'll tell you. But more apps are doing it. Even your bank apps are starting to tell you, like you are overspending here, or you put more here than what you spent last month in this. This is something you want to look at. I have USAA. I think it's great for that. But I do want to touch on something that Kimberly is going towards, which is savings, right? So I think that what she's saying is valuable. Like she's taking something that she found savings in and she's applying it to savings because of homeownership. What I'm doing this year, I actually just ordered it because I'm a little frugal at some times and I didn't want to pay $30 for a savings challenge. But you can purchase these little saving challenge binders from off of Amazon. And I think I just got mine for like $7 because people gifted me Amazon gift cards, and it's $1,000 little saving binder, and you will put $40 in each little slot, and when it's full, you've saved $1,000, right? And my thing is when you're going to save, especially when you're trying to save for home ownership, you want to save in two different spots. You want to save for your out of pocket costs or earnest fees, and then you want to save for your down payment, right? If you have to. And I'm sure you guys will get into this later, so we're just going to talk about saving. When you're making your budget, you first want to make sure that you save for whatever your insurance deductible is, because usually an accident is going to be the thing that's going to catch you off guard. Tires shouldn't be catching you off guard. Car maintenance should not be catching you off guard, because if you have a car, it's your responsibility to take care of it. You're going to have to replace tires every 50, 60, 70,000 miles, depending on what type of tires you have, right? There are certain things you're going to have to do. But you want to at least save your car insurance deductible first. Once you've saved that, you want to choose another method of saving. Whether it be in a binder, like a little savings binder, like I just explained, or whether you have direct deposit from out of your check to a bank that you don't frequent or don't easily have access to with a high interest rate. You want to just make sure that you are making a purpose to save and you understand why you're doing it, so that when you reached it, you can say, oh, I did it. And two, when you're saving for your deductible, if an accident or something happens, you don't have to try to figure out how you're going to get the money to fix it, because the things that keeps us held down is when these things that we forget about come up, like tires.
Right. You're right.
Tires.
You're right.
So,
So, you know, in terms of like certain things that I see from the lending standpoint, because I want to give you the
mm-hmm,
practical of what I see, and I also want to see, I want to give you what I see from the lending standpoint.
mm-hmm,
The buy here, pay here, the buy here, pay later items like Klarna,
yes,
Afterpay,
mm-hmm,
they seem great because you don't have to spend your money at that moment. But
mm-hmm,
from the lending standpoint, when it comes out of your bank account on a monthly basis, we see that. So
yeah,
the underwriter says, hey, I see that Mr. Jones has 69.99 coming out once a month. There's nothing on his credit. What is that? That's the
mm-hmm,
question they're going to ask. Why is this going to XYZ? And then we have to come back to you as the lender and say, hey, we see you got 69.99 going out a month to ABC company. What is that? And then you
mm-hmm,
explain to us, hey, it's where I got some tires. I didn't have the money at the time, but I'm paying them on a monthly basis to such and such.
mm-hmm,
And if you have more than 10 months left on that, we have to count that into your debt to income ratio. 69.99 doesn't sound like a lot, but at this point in the game when we're underwriting your file, that could be the difference between you being able to purchase that home and not.
mm-hmm,
It could be the difference between you no longer qualifying. It could be the difference between you running out of money because, hey, the only way you qualify for this house is if you pay that bill off in full. Well, if I pay this bill off in full, it'll come from my closing costs that I don't, that I have set aside, so I'm short. So it could change things, right?
yeah,
So with, with that being said, be mindful of those things as well. We all run into situations where we need to get something and we don't have the money at the time. I'm not saying not use it in an emergency situation, but don't let that be the way that you get through without using your credit cards. Because see, that's the thing. You hear us talk and say, "Hey, don't use your credit cards for this, this, and that during the transaction, but don't use Afterpay either, because we're going to see it. Like we're going to see those items. So like just be mindful of those things. And if you do use it, have a game plan on how you're going to pay it off. Um, I want to make sure that we're mindful of you guys. And I just want to reset the room, right? We're taking the beginning of 2025 and we're starting off with Shannon Payton, who is talking to us and explaining to us how we should budget, different methods of budgeting, and why having a budget is good. We want you to start 2025 off on the right foot, and not just from January the 1st to January 5th,
mm-hmm,
right? We
mm-hmm,
want you to use this from January the 1st beyond, like constantly beyond. I've got some millionaire loan officers in my company who teach us budgeting every time we have a conference, right? Twice a year. And they review their budget once a month. When
Mm,
I say, I'm not talking about they got $1 million worth of property and they call themselves a millionaire. I'm talking about they have millions of dollars in the bank and they still budget. One guy says that if it's less than $20, he uses cash. If it costs more than $20 and he has the money in his account, he uses his credit card to get the points and he
hmm
pays it right off as soon as it shows.
Right.
You have, and doing that part, you see a ton of videos on that. Doing that part sounds great, but it's a science to it because if you
Yes.
don't pay it, then you're constantly building credit card debt. And the purpose is to get the benefits from the points, not to run up the credit card. Um, so Shan,
hmm
what can I do uh today, this moment? I get off this live.
hmm
What can I do today to get started? Because if you're watching the live, probably not at work. If you are, well, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. But what can I do today to get started? Not just like me, my family. Like, what
hmm
can we do to get started on the budgeting piece? What's one action item that's not overwhelming that I can do today to step in the right direction?
Just look at what you have going out and coming in. Like that's the basis because doing that single step, you'll be like, hmm. Because you might, I think I can't remember if it was Rose or Kimberly, but somebody said I just canceled a bunch of subscriptions. A lot of times we forget, like you just said, I did it for $1 and now it's 10.99. I don't even remember. You know what I mean? So just knowing what's going in and coming out, just do that. Start there. If you're already there, then the other thing that I would say is save. Save. I can't say enough about the save and challenge bonders. I like them. I like them a lot because you can visually see it. Um, I have a little cue card of everything that you're talking about. I was like, and I wanted to like kind of piggyback on. Um, I actually have some tips here for budget success, so I'm gonna just kind of go over those. You
All
know,
right, cool.
stop your buy now, pay later. Like if you know that you got a problem with that, stop them. It's easy to get caught up in those. Um, if you find that you have, once you look at your budget and you just look at it, and you find you have more month than money. You know, get a side hustle or put a number on a skill. If you have a skill that you do well, put a number on it. Don't be afraid to do that. That'll help you make some money. Um, if you haven't used it in a month, let it go. Let these subscriptions go. If you haven't been to the gym in 3 months, you're not gonna start going this month. Nothing's gonna make you go to the gym this month because it's New Year, right? Let it go. Sell anything with a tag on it in your closet that you haven't worn for 6 months. How many of us have things that we're like, oh, I plan to wear that? When? It's never gonna happen. Let it go. We're not going to do it. And even if you can't sell it, just sometimes just having that out of your mind, it reduces the stresses that you might have. If you have bills that you feel like are high, like for instance, Comcast, they have the tendency to creep, is what I call it. So you'll have them for a while and then they'll gradually increase the bill. When they do that, don't hesitate to call and say, hey, I noticed that my bill is going up. We need to do some adjustments. Can we evaluate my bill to get a lower bill? Our bill went from, I think we dropped it like $40 just off of a phone call. It was worth the call. You know what I mean? So be willing to, look for things maybe in a non traditional way. When you were talking about your guy with the millionaire with the credit card thing, the thing with that you're saying that you have to be strategic about is understanding the difference between your statement date and your due date. So I'm sure that he's paying his bill by his statement date, not by his due date, because whatever he's paid by the statement date is what's going to report on the due date.
That's great information to have. Great
Mm-hmm.
information to have. Um, I want to give you guys a trick too that I've done multiple times. So when you call in, and let's say I'm not, let's say you call into your cable company, and you tell them that your bill's high, let's review it. Is there anything else you can do, right, to lower your bill? The person that you talk to on the phone first could potentially care less if you stay or you go,
Mm-hmm.
right? To them, they're going to get their whatever amount of dollars an hour and, go, right? So they're initially going to probably say, no, there's nothing we can do, Mr. Jefferson. Say, hey, I appreciate, and don't get nasty because, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
help. Hey, I appreciate you helping out. Can I speak to a supervisor? Their antenna goes up. Well, why do you want to speak to the supervisor? Hey, you haven't done anything wrong. I want to speak to your supervisor because I need some more clarification, right?
Yeah.
Well, all my supervisors are busy. You'll have to wait. Cool. I'll wait for a supervisor. When you speak to the supervisor, they typically have a different mindset of, hey, we need to try to retain this client, this customer, because it depends on our company making money, which then pays us and we don't get laid off. I know Comcast and AT&T have a retention department.
Yeah.
So they have deals that they can offer you even for if it's for 6 months that the upfront people can't. So they're like the back line. So if you call and ask to review your bill to see why it's higher, to see what you can do to lower your bill, and even if it's $10 a month and you're like, I'm not satisfied, ask for a supervisor or a retention department or the retention department,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then they can offer things that you may not be able to. So like with me, we went on a trip. I messed up in terms of my Wi-Fi service on a cruise, and my bill doubled.
Mm-hmm.
I called in that when we got to land, and the young lady said, "Hey, Mr. Jefferson, you're not going to be able to dispute it until the bill actually comes out." I said, "Cool." The bill came out. I called in, and the person went through my bill and said, "Hey, we can offer you $100 credit." And I said, "Great, I appreciate it. Can I speak to a supervisor?" I said, because you can see I wasn't using my phone willy nilly. Like I wasn't just using my phone. It was an honest mistake on cutting it on, and I paid dearly. They sent me to a supervisor. She went through my bill and she gave me, I didn't get it all taken off, but the majority of it came off. If I had just settled for what that person said and went with their word, then I'd be paying a much higher bill. So like asking for someone above that person helps because they want to retain you as a customer. They want to keep you as a customer because you can get out and leave them and go somewhere else. So they want to keep you, but there's a way to do it with tact, not
Yeah.
fussing, not angry, you know, because, I've seen where people, on the other line, I've been next to them and they got nasty and, oh man, we got disconnected. No, they hung up on you, but because you were acting up. So those are just ways to save. Um, Shannon, do you have
Mm-hmm.
any budget challenges coming up that you're offering?
I think I'm actually gonna start. I'm gonna start with doing budgets every month on YouTube. It's gonna be an accountability piece for me. And I'm also doing the $1,000 budget challenge with the binder. As soon as it comes in, I'm gonna start. Matter of fact, I'm just waiting for it to deliver. Should be today or maybe Saturday. So we'll be doing that, and then so yes, I do have a few of them coming up. Um, the person she said the Spectrum has a monopoly in my area. They don't budge. They will though. If they have a retention department, they will. Especially if you're not like I work in accounts receivable like on my regular 9 to 5. And sometimes like what you're saying is absolutely true. Like if I have a person and I work in B2B, which means business to business. So if I have a person who's being like a jerk on the phone, I'm probably a little less likely to think of I'm gonna help and do what I have to do. But I'm a little less likely to be tolerant of your foolishness. Especially if you're difficult to work with. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm tired of working with you. Go ahead and do what we gotta do. But if you're kinder, then it makes it a little easier to be like, you know what, I can get you a little bit more time. Now, sometimes we just can't do what we can't do,
Right.
but being kind costs you nothing. You know what I
Right.
mean? So what you're saying is absolutely true. And every company has a spectrum, including what is it, MediaCom? They all have some sort of retention department. You just say the right thing. Maybe don't be like, I'm quitting, but say, especially if you know that you've been a good customer, I'm having a hard time. This is too costly, but I need this service. They'll get you to somebody.
Right. So for me, um, we had AT&T
Mm-hmm.
for internet and cable, right? Um, AT&T, who owns DirecTV, is the one who said, "Hey, we have something through an app called Direct Stream. Uh, we own it. It's the same channels, just different numbers, and it'll help you save X amount of dollars." I was able to cut my bill in half at the time. So that was helpful. And because what they did was the person took the time to say, okay, Mr. Jefferson, what stations do you watch? So I told them what channels I watch. I said, hey, I want to make sure I have, some Christian stations in there because my grandmother watches them. And they say, okay, here's the package that looks like what you have with AT&T. Of course, at the time they give you a little, oh, well, you can get Stars for 12 months and Showtime for 3 and HBO, like they give you those little things. Um, so that was very helpful. If I had not did that, I knew about Direct TV and the antenna or the disc, but I never knew
Mm-hmm.
about the app of Direct Stream. So, just little things like that, because a lot of these companies are merging. So Rose, in terms of Spectrum, I would call back and
Mm-hmm.
I would just ask for a supervisor. My
Different
Spectrum
person.
is small compared to the other companies. So they need to pick up a market share or retain what they have. So I would venture just to kind of take what Shannon and I told you, call back. And if they don't save you, see what other service you have in that area. Because the good part about switching, if you have to switch, is typically the introductory price and rates are better than what current customers get. So that would be something I would check into. Real quick, man, Kim, you got the game on lock. She says, I own a small home daycare. My side hustle is babysitting my clients' kids for date nights. I charge $15 per hour and I have filled my savings both with that money. That is smart
Clutch. Yeah.
because we moved to Georgia and we don't really have family that's in proximity to watch our kids. We've got to go. Our in-laws would do it, but who wants to drive 2 hours there, 2 hours back to do it, right? If they can't stay, right? So like we don't really have anyone that could watch our kids. Like so we would take advantage of when they were in childcare around definitely around Christmas time, they would have a date night so parents to go shop. When the boys did karate, they offer date night like once a month. And it's not $15 an hour, but it's like $40. And we got two kids, so it cost us $80. But that was an opportunity for me and my wife to get away and just have some us time. So that's definitely smart, Kim. And you using that for your savings as opposed to spending more money because you're making more. So that's what it's all about. Also, when you pick up a side hustle, when you pick up or you start a business or you pick up a second job, the goal is to use that opportunity to help you and not to spend more money. So
Yeah.
I see people who have multiple jobs and their lifestyle is based off of two jobs. I see people who have multiple jobs or a job in a business, and you can see where they take that money from that job or that business and save or be able to pay things down. So that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah,
Avoiding,
that's a it typo. I'm telling you, man, YouTube gets me. But avoiding the lifestyle creep. That's what it is.
gotcha.
Like it's easy for us to start to absorb. Like when we find, especially if we get like an increase of income, we absorb it immediately. And like one of the one thing that I'm trying to work on, true story, is I am trying to work on having us live off my husband's income and then using my income exclusively for like debt reduction and savings.
That's smart. That's smart. Um,
Yeah.
Hey guys, you guys have been great. We've had a lot of comments. Before we let Shannon skedaddle on out, is there anyone who has any questions for me or for Shannon pertaining to debt? Or Shannon, if you got a little bit more time, we can go until the next speaker arrives. It's up to you.
I mean, I can if you want to. I know we did the budget, but whatever you want to talk about, if you want to
Got you.
talk about.
All right. So not only is Shannon my budget person, she's also very knowledgeable in credit. Very knowledgeable in credit. So while we have a little bit of time, um, in terms of credit, where you want to start? Where,
I feel like people there's a lot of information out there about credit, and I just like to ask like whatever questions people have because I feel like it seems like this group it has a foundation. So, um, what questions do they have about credit is what I'd like to extend because this something about this year too is I want to be more of service to people. You know what I mean? Everything. I don't want everything to be intentionally about a benefit for me. You know what I mean? I really want to help more people where they need it. So
right.
I'll pose a question to the group. What questions do you have about credit that maybe you were like, I don't know. This seems odd. Like, I don't know if this is legitimate or not. Because I'm
Got you.
going to do my best to give you the best answer that I can. And if I don't know, then I'll tell you that too.
Got you. So let me give you a scenario. So maybe this will help them with
Mm-hmm.
some questions. Um, I'm looking at my credit,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a $500 Comcast bill that dropped
Mm-hmm.
my score. What happens if I pay that bill? Does my
Collections,
score go up? Yes, in collections. Does my
it's
score
going
go up?
to.
No?
No. And the thing is anything that's in collections, like I tell people when you're looking at your credit report, if you are wanting to know like what's going on, or if you think you have some issues with your credit report, you want to first make sure that you're pulling your credit from all three places and make sure that you're seeing everything. I recommend creditscorego.com. I like it because it offers you the opportunity to do free credit repair, but it also gives you a credit report. Okay. So if you pay a collection, it's typically not going to improve your score because the damage was done by reporting the collection, not the payment of the collection, right? But you
Mm,
have to pay the collection because the lender's going to want to see it paid, right? Because you can't owe people while you're trying to get money. That defeats the purpose of trying to get money, right? So that's
right.
something that you want to focus on with that.
Kim says, hold on, let me get to it.
How many credit cards should I have?
Yep. How many credit cards should I have?
I say 3 to 5. This is from a credit professional position. Kevin could vary, but you'll tell me if anything's changed. I say 3 to 5 because whenever you're trying to apply for something, you want to have a thicker credit profile, right? Which means 3 to 5 lines of credit that show that you know how to substantially use it. Okay. That doesn't mean that you have to use all of them at the same time. It just means that you need 3 to 5 lines of credit. Mortgage, car, 3 credit cards. If you have that, typically that'll help you with getting a decent credit score if you pay them like you should and if you use them properly. Lenders need to see, they can see it at 6 months, but I tell people you want to age it for 2 years because that's going to put you in a better position.
Right. So from the lender standpoint, couple things. We have options in terms of being able to purchase a home if you don't have a credit score at all, right? We have the option of FHA as well as VA, which allows for you to establish three credit lines. Non-traditional credit lines. Non-traditional credit lines would be what some of the things we spoke about. Your
Right.
Comcast bill, showing that
Mm-hmm.
you've paid on time for the last 12 months, right? Your lease, if you currently leasing your apartment or leasing a home and you've made 12 on-time payments and not been at least 30 days late in the
Mm-hmm.
last 12 months, that's an option. When it's VA, they look at a 24-month history. So in the last 24 months, have you been late on your lease agreement? And we get that verified through a third party. So it's you can't bring us a form from your uncle who filled it out for you, as well as we look at like utilities. We can look at car insurance. We can look at Netflix bills. Some three forms showing, hey, over the last 12 months, Kevin has not been late 30 days on these items, and we get them verified, right?
Hmm.
Now, if you do have a credit score, we FHA is a little bit more lenient, right, in terms of credit history. When you're talking about conventional financing, that's when you need to have an established profile, right? You need to have a history of having credit over a specific period of time. And if you don't have history of having credit over a specific period of time to get conventional financing, the only other way to compensate for that is to have some assets. When I
Hmm.
say assets, money and savings, stocks, IRAs, 401k, something that's liquid to say, hey, after I pay my down payment and closing costs, I have reserves available, and that makes you a stronger borrower. Um, I've seen people who've had 660 credit scores and assets get approved with conventional, and I've seen people who've had 700 credit scores and no money get turned down because the
Hmm.
score is one thing. Do you have money also? So those are just little things that, can help. In terms of the biggest mistake that I see people make when trying to establish credit is they go buy a car. And when you go buy a car, yes, that's a trade line. And now you're just like, oh, well, if I can afford this car, I should be able to afford a house. The problem is, if you didn't have
Right.
a car payment before, and now you have a $600 car payment,
It's
that's
your
five
house.
or $600 less of a
Hmm.
house that you can buy, which is a
Yep.
significant amount of money.
I've never seen a person, and I know you. This is my last piece, and I know we're about to go to your next speaker. I tell people you can always get a car after you buy a house, but too many times I have either had deals fall or people not be able to qualify because of a car. So get the house, then get the car.
Yeah, got you. Cool. Well, Shannon, I definitely appreciate you coming on, joining us. We'll definitely do some more stuff throughout the year. Hey
Hmm.
guys, Shannon's contact information will be below. Shannon, if you can put in the chat, if you can put in the comment section, not the private chat, if you can put
Yes.
your YouTube channel so they can follow you. Uh, follow her for great information. What I will say is she's all content. It's no fluff. It's no get rich quick or scheme. It's, hey, these are the things that we need to do to position ourselves to be in a better place.
Yeah, I'm in here. It's being broke sucks. My name is
Got
Shannon Payton on there, but being broke sucks is how you can find me. Thank you. Thanks, you guys,
oh,
for having me. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
all right, Shan. Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, bye bye.